what is Shugendo anyway, and how did you get involved?
Well, you know, it's rather unusual, I think, for a foreign person in Japan to get involved with Shugendo. Um, it's very much always was in ancient days a common person, a lay person's uh, approach to spirituality. So many hundreds of years ago, you know, in the 600s, people in Japan would venture up into the wild mountains with the idea of encountering raw nature, maybe also some spirits. In the old Japanese view, when people died, their spirit would go to the mountains. And I mean, this is many, many hundreds of years ago. And people didn't go into the mountains. People would see them in the far distance, but they wouldn't go into the mountains. Those few special ones, Shugenja or Yamabushi, would go into the mountains and have encounters, transform themselves, and then come back after this spiritual adventure, come back to the lowlands where they would interact with people in the villages and farms, maybe heal them, or maybe affect the weather or their prosperity, or if their children were studying in school, they could give them a blessing. That's kind of an overview of Shugendo.
Beautiful. So thank you very much. So what is the brief history of Shugendo, by the way? So we don't even know how we can start.
Well, you know, it really goes back to ancient Japanese history, where people had an experience in the mountains. Now, this was maybe before there was much official religion in Japan. We think maybe originally Shinto, and then later came Buddhism, Shinto and Buddhism in Japan. This was kind of before that. And people would go and have a spiritual experience, maybe some scary things. Maybe some people didn't even come back. They were killed by a wild bear or fell off the cliff. It was very dangerous. The practice itself used some Buddhist teachings, also used some Shinto teachings, maybe some shamanism from way north in China, shamanism, Omyodo. It was all mixed in together, and this would motivate people, inspire people. But also that's why I think not so many foreign people are involved in Shugendo today. It's a very unusual, very close to old Japanese folk ways. Many Japanese Shugenja don't think foreigners can even understand it.
So Shugendo is not Buddhism. That's what you're saying.
Well, it's not pure Buddhism, but there's esoteric Buddhism, use of statues, use of mandala, use of mantra. Buddhism is a part of Shugendo. So I think what happened in the old days, many, many hundreds of years ago, maybe a Buddhist priest or a Buddhist monk or even a lay person had some practice. He did this practice over and over again, met with some of these Shugenja, and they adopted his practice. They thought of like magic words, mantras, magic words, or in, mudra with hands, magic symbols. And they adopted these Buddhist teachings. So today, I think most Shugendo training comes under the guidance of a Tendai or Shingon Mikyo. There are a few that are not associated, but this was after World War II. See, when the Meiji government took over Japan, 1860s, 1870s.
So for in
America.
case somebody who don't know anything about the Meiji government, the Meiji government is after like a Tokugawa, like a samurai government ended. So that it's a emperor, government of the emperor, Japanese emperor, I believe. Is that true?
Yes, for like 250 years, the Tokugawa family, shoguns, ruled Japan. And the emperor lived tucked away in Kyoto. Nobody saw the emperor. And so the Meiji government, we brought the emperor back into Tokyo and restored, got rid of the samurai, cut off a top knot, got rid of the swords, got rid of the samurai, and had the emperor, we call him Emperor Meiji, from the 1870s. He became the ruler. Now, whether he really ruled Japan or not, debatable. There were councils and boards of people. Some think maybe he just used this emperor in name. Samurai day is over. We'll bring the emperor back, Emperor Meiji. And everything became westernized, very westernized. Clothing, mannerisms, books, all became very westernized. And they made Shugendo illegal, the new Meiji government. Now, I've asked my Shugendo teachers many times, why did this become illegal? I mean, they burned up scrolls, they prevented people from practicing, and I can't get a clear answer. I think it had to do with the Meiji government, 1870s emperor government, people trying to fit into the West. They wanted a more sophisticated kind of religion to match the Christianity and Judaism of the West. And so they reformulated Shinto and made the emperor the divine background. It was a more sophisticated. And so the funny Shugendo people up in the mountains, having these experiences, some of them were blind, especially women. Blind women were very sensitive for healing and predicting the future. Some people, a little crazy, not quite balanced. And so they could have these shamanic journeys into other realms and then come back and predict. Meiji government got rid of all of that and said, we now, Japanese, follow Shinto. After World War II, religious freedom was restored to Japan. So, 1940s, they allowed many different religions, including Shugendo. But it had been like 100 years in there where nobody was practicing. And so people tried to restore the idea of what the Shugendo was. And so it's a very complicated history for such a very personal spiritual system.